should be good to go.
Commissioner Ritz, are you there?
I am here.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Davis?
Yep, I'm here.
And Commissioner Burns?
Yes, sir.
Just making sure, she switched everything on. We want to make sure everybody can be heard. You ready?
Yeah, we're good. I have 7.
I'd like to call the August 3rd, 2020 town meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all. Future meetings. The next Parks and Recreational Committee meeting will be Tuesday, August the 18th, 7:30 p.m. That will be Zoom. Last day to register to vote will be Friday, August the 30th, 2020. At 19.
Wrong year on both.
Last day to file for election. It's Friday, August the 30th, 2020 at 4 p.m.
These dates are wrong, actually. The last date to register to vote is Friday, August 28th,
Oh, 28th?
and the last day to file for election is Friday, August 28th, 2020.
Okay. Oh. Sorry about that, guys. The dates are wrong.
Say it again, Cliff, please.
August the 28th, Friday, will be the last day to register to vote, 2020. And the last day to file for election will be Friday, August the 28th at 4 p.m., not the 30th.
Right,
That's a Sunday.
Okay.
correct.
The next town council meeting will be Zoom. It will be Tuesday, September the 8th at 7:30 p.m. and that will be a Zoom meeting on Channel 99 and also on Zoom. Silo Hill Stormwater Basin Public Outreach Meeting will be this Thursday, August the 6th. And that also will be a Zoom meeting at 7 p.m.
President.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Just quickly, an update on coronavirus. For the state, testing volume is 1,294,065, 91,144 confirmed cases, 869,493 persons tested negative. There have been 3,389 deaths, a +8 in the last 24-hour period. Frederick County, 3,010 cases, 114 deaths, 7 probable related deaths. For our zip code 21727, we are up to 32 confirmed cases. That's 1 from last week. Overall, for the state, from what I read from their graph, the ICU beds are level, acute beds a downward trend, total beds a downward trend. Again, Frederick County gives no more information about the nature of the sickness there. I just want to remind everybody we have COVID-19 testing at the Seton Center every Tuesday, noon to 2 p.m. There will be no charge, no appointments needed. For further information, please call 301-447-6102, the Seton Center. Because of the lack of rain, we do have a voluntary conservation restraint we requested, and our town manager will give an update on that. Census is, we're chugging along. We're about 68.5%. We need more work. We're out there coming to your neighborhood, but thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approval of town meeting minutes for July 13th, 2020. Has everybody looked at the meeting minutes and read them? And does anybody have any changes?
No, sir. No changes.
Okay. Hearing none. I need a motion to accept the meeting minutes for July 13th.
I'll make a motion.
Motion's
I'll second
been
the
made-
motion.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Burns, second by Commissioner Ritz. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Police report, we don't have one?
No, I don't know why they're not here.
Okay. Town managers report.
Good evening. This is the town manager's report for June of 2020. Go over some highlighted areas, and then we can talk about the water levels. Related to streets, the contractor had blacktopped 2 intersections on West Lincoln Avenue. Staff cold patched some potholes around town and in the developments. Staff put up flags on the streetlight poles for Flag Day. They put up banners for 4th of July on East and West Main Street in South Seton. The staff also installed wayside exhibit signs in front of the Carriage House, Chronicle Press, and the northeast side of the square. They also put up farmers market banners on the streetlight poles and around the town as well. Related to parks, outside the normal daily and monthly park checks, staff mowed, trimmed, and weed killed. They also began sanitizing playground equipment twice a week. The contractor installed the umbrella shades at the all-inclusive playground. Staff weed killed infield on ball field number 4. Put mulch and got the community garden plots ready. Staff cleaned and painted the floors in the bathhouse at the pool. Staff also put up sanitation signs in the parks, playgrounds, dog park, and walking trail. Staff assisted with getting Community Park ready for Heritage Day, and they installed some shut-off kits in both dog park water fountains. For June, I'll go over the water levels as of June 30th. The Rainbow Lake was 2 inches, it shouldn't say 0.2, it's 2 inches below the spillway level, which is 16.6 feet. The roughing filters were being backwashed 3 times a day. We had to increase to 4. You look at the Elptaman well levels, we're still in really good condition. Wells number 1 and 2 in June have been running minimally, and the lake number was still over our monthly average. We basically were running without much need for well number 3. However, they did start running a little bit more now due to the drier conditions. Water production and consumption, about 11.4% was backwash water at the water treatment plant in June. We purchased 431,900 gallons of water from Mount St. Mary's in the month of June. So as of today, August 3rd, the lake is now at 15.5 feet. Normal is 16.6 feet. So it's about 1 foot below its spillway level. We received only ½ inch of rain at the water treatment plant and approximately 1.5 inches at the wastewater treatment plant on Friday evening. The wells came back up since the end of July, or since the end of June. They've come back up some. None are terribly low for immediate concern. Well number 1, we're a foot to the good. Well number 2, we're 4 feet to the good. And then well number 4, we're 2 feet to the good. And well number 5, we're 1 foot to the good. So the wells have come up. Since the voluntary water restriction was put into place, you'll see I noted, since it went into place on July 13th, water usage went up 11.3%, but it's now tapered off again. So I think the increase was just temporary. So that's where we are with the water. Related to wastewater, we treated 320,000 gallons per day and consumed 210,226 gallons per day, which means that 34.3% of the wastewater treated was wild water. We had no spills of untreated sewage, nor did we exceed the plant's design capacity anytime in the month of June. So June's average precipitation, we received 2.05 inches. In June, the average is 4.4. We currently, well, as of June 30th, we had a deficit of 1.9 inches. Trash pickup remains Mondays in the month of August. There's a list of the meetings I attended, conference calls essentially, that I attended in June. Staff repaired a water leak on Track Road. We finally, for the commissioners, we finally received final payment for damages incurred during the Square project. The case was set to go to court on July 29th. However, full payment was received from the contractor.
Great.
So,
Yes, Commissioner O'Donnell.
I'm just saying, commenting, that's great that they settled. They chose to pay up.
yes. So, that's behind us now. And that's about all I have for, the manager's report. The mayor will have an update on some pump station, the new pump station on Creamery Road when he has his mayor's comments.
Any
Can I ask a quick
questions?
question, Ms. Willetts?
Commissioner Burns, go ahead.
When you were speaking about the parks and getting everything with the shades and everything set up, I know we had voted a few months back on the approval for the Eagle Scout project for the picnic bench. Has anybody been in contact with him as far as if he's going to complete that or anything?
I-
Last I heard he was gonna complete it.
And then bring it.
We haven't had any correspondence with him.
I got an email to the Lions Club. We sent him a donation this past month in July towards the picnic table.
Right.
So I imagine he's working on it because I did get an email from his father and him that they were going to work on it. And I don't know when they're going to complete it.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I did get a telephone message from Mr. Lowe.
Yes.
And
Mr. Lover.
I think their activities commence in late September. They're quiet for the summer. We extended a little benefit to them for pool service for everything they've done, and but they will probably be back around October.
I had just one more thing, just for anybody, financial disclosures were due to Maddie on April 30th. All financial disclosures require a notary. The Board of Commissioners, they have the long form. So if you've turned in your form and it needs notarized, get with Maddie. If you haven't turned it in yet, please get it to Maddie as soon as possible. We need to get them to the Ethics Commission for review. That's everything.
Any other questions for the town manager on her report? Hearing none, we'll move on. Town planners report.
Hello, everybody. This is the planner's report for June 2020. And I just wanted to note, Maddie, it looks like Commissioner Davis may be off the call, just for the record. Let's see. Under the Board of Commissioners, I processed 5 COVID-19 business micro grant applications, and I also revised documents for Phase 2. I continued working on the wastewater treatment plant annexation plan. I worked with MDOT on town square traffic light concerns, obtained 2 quotes to study the traffic patterns. Under grants, miscellaneous grant management, I submitted 2 community legacy reimbursement requests. I processed 2 community legacy grant applications. I submitted the quarterly reports for fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20 community legacy grants. Under MS4, miscellaneous Silo Hill Basin retrofit project, as the president stated, we're going to be having a Zoom meeting on Thursday. We reached out to all members, or we put letters on every single door at Silo Hill. development and let them know we're having the meeting. But anybody's welcome in the town. And I continue processing the yearly MS4 report that's due in October. Permits and zoning, I processed 13 zoning permits, approved 2 sidewalk cafe permits, and responded to various incident reports. Under Planning Commission, miscellaneous, Rudders, Duncan, and Insurance Brokers Project Management. Also, Kathy, the mayor, and I continue to get questions from potential developers of Emmett Ridge. Nothing concrete at this time. Under miscellaneous, I plan the pool mural and interior renovation ribbon cutting ceremony, and also assisted with permitting for the pool interior renovation project. And that sums up everything.
Is there any questions for the town planner at this time? Is everybody on? Is Commissioner Davis back?
There's a phone number, but I don't know, or there's a number, but I don't know if it's his or not. It's not a name.
Commissioner Davis, are you there? I think we lost Commissioner Davis.
I just got a text message from him that says he's locked out. So I don't know if he just can't get back on the Zoom call or what.
You want to wait for, or continue or wait for him to come?
He needs to request to get back into the meeting, but there's no request saying like, there's nothing that says he's waiting to get in.
TJ has to request, if you can get a hold of him, tell him he has to request to get back into the Zoom meeting.
Let me see if I can call him. May I call? May I use the phone?
Somebody,
Yeah.
because I don't have a phone with
Okay.
me.
Hey, Frank, where are you? Yeah.
I'm sorry, Zach, I didn't realize you were there.
I'm sorry?
I didn't realize you were on there. I didn't acknowledge you.
Who does
Oh,
he,
okay.
who does he request to?
He just has to call in, right, Maddie?
Just click on the link or call the number on in the email. I sent.
What's he do?
Click on the link or call the email.
Okay, we're
Waiting on you.
waiting on you. You got a, Maddie, what, say
Click
again?
on the email
Click on the email.
or click on the
Click on the link
link
or call the phone number.
or
Or
call the phone number.
One or the other, or click a link. I'm gonna put you on speaker if he gets, okay, he's here until he gets there,
All righty, until you get back in, he'll be able to hear us.
okay?
All righty, we'll move on to the next one. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Davis, since we got you on the phone there, we'll go ahead and get yours.
Just want to thank the town for everything they did with the bridge dedication. Last week, the family was quite pleased with the way it went, and just thank everybody else for how they're continue to work through all the weird stuff going on. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Burns?
Yes, I just kind of want to echo what Commissioner Davis said. I think it was a great event that they had for the bridge dedication ceremony. It was great to see so many members of the community out there. The signs look great. It was a really nice tribute for the family as well. And again, really proud and love seeing people in our community really doing well with the social distancing at the pool, at the parks, and things of that nature. And hopefully we can all be having these meetings in person again, and having our community days in person again, and everything of that, as long as we keep following the rules. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Ritz?
Yeah, I was at the bridge dedication to Terry Myers as well. Great turnout, a lot of folks. Very hot that day. I was hiding in the back in the shade, but it was great to see everyone there, and great for the family, for Mr. Myers. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yeah, hi. Thank you. Good evening. Unfortunately, I was not able to make either dedication for the pool house or for the bridge. And I feel I have an explanation for both. For the pool house, I had to work that day of all things, so I couldn't get out of that, unfortunately. And for the bridge dedication, which I also had really hoped to attend, there was a family event that I had to be in attendance for. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there, which it sounds like it was, they were both very strong events. I was contacted by a couple businesses in town. They are still collecting funds for the food bank with the EBPA. And if folks are at local establishments like Exxon and at Jubilee, the collection boxes are still in place and the money is still supporting the food bank. I was able to actually visit the pool house and see the renovations. It looks as if they had done a very nice job. And I was very pleasantly surprised by the number of people still using the pool. Everyone was socially distanced. The guards were masked up. It was good to see that folks are, using the resource carefully. I want to thank staff for their help. I had a couple inquiries about some town water related issues, and their answers were very forthcoming and very quick, which was greatly appreciated. And I also dealt with town staff, had an inquiry specifically about the dedication of, or rather the opening of the disc golf course. And again, a quick response from town staff, not only to myself, but to the citizen who had expressed interest. And these things are all very much appreciated. So that concludes my commissioner input. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to thank the fire company and the town and everyone for the wonderful bridge dedication for Terry. I went to school with his children and knew Terry well. He will be and always will be very missed in town. He was a big part of the fire company and also part of the community. So I'm glad that the bridge was dedicated in his honor. Also, the pool in July when it opened, all the renovations they did inside are wonderful. Everybody needs to get up and see it if they haven't seen it. We got comments on the mural over the weekend. A couple people outside the fence said how nice the mural was. They weren't inside the pool. They just like to come up and look at the mural on the building. But everything's been running well at the pool. It's getting well attended by just Emmitsburg only residents. The concession stand has been running well. Everything's been running pretty smooth. They haven't had any problems at the pool. So I really appreciate all the hard work and stuff they do, because they disinfect everything within a half an hour, and including the inside and out.
Right.
And they do a really good job doing it. The lifeguards do. That's all I have. Mr. Mayor, you're next.
Oh, thank you very much. It was a busy month. We had our first meeting. I don't want to go over what went before that, but it was on July 13th, and we've had some really nice guests in on our weekly COVID-19 updates. We had George Brenton, Campus Coordinator, Director of Facilities of Daughters of Charity. We've had Pradip Sani, developer here. He's thinking about developing some more. He's a businessman here. He had as a guest. We had County Sheriff Charles A. Jenkins, and they were all exceptional people. And it was a wonderful event that the fire company put together, and I was so honored to be a part of it, as I am always. And just a couple of things around the edges there. Trying to keep up with Lisa McDonald and Boys and Girls Club of Frederick. No one knows anything, and so we're trying to work out something. I talked to Pastor John Talcott about maybe they would house the Boys and Girls Club this fall if school's not in. They really grew pretty quickly, and in a half a year I think they're up to 13 students, and it's a wonderful program, and we're going to do everything we possibly can to take care of them. Smart Growth Subcommittee Panel Forum, I was in on that, I think also with our town clerk, Matty Shaw. We both listened in on that, and as always, I'm always in contact with President Trainer at the Mount, and they have a very interesting document that they're putting out, and it's called the COVID-19 Student Community Care Agreement. And every student will have to sign this. And part of it does talk to activities here in town and what they can do. And I won't go through it in its entirety, but it'll be coming out very, very soon, as soon as I get the authority to disseminate it. But I wanted to let you know that we are been working together. I've been meeting with Dr. Werner Franklin, Dr. Levi Estes. I've had meetings with them this month, and we're going to get through this whole thing, and the Mount will come back to school on August 17th, a week earlier. They will go to Thanksgiving, and they will stop at Thanksgiving, then they'll proceed. Everything from there will be distance learning, but they will have no fall sports. So all these things are falling in place, but are you still there, Frank? Okay. I don't know if Frank lost him or not. But anyway, that's pretty much where we are. There are a lot of things going up in the air, but I did want to comment on one thing where successfully how hard the staff worked to get the financing for the pump station replacement project. We were approved for a loan of $1,987,000. With that, we received a grant for $863,000, and we're that's really pretty wonderful what our staff did in working with the USDA, Rural Development Branch of that. We have a top staff here that we put together, and it's where they're working for us every day. We will not have anybody come into the town office until further notice, and I think it's pretty much we can say will be this way till at least after Labor Day. And if they're looking for a second wave, then this will be the status going through till the first of the year, that we will not have any contact with you. And I'm trying to get around and deliver a lot of things on the census, but at the same time, I appreciate that I have to keep my distance from you when I'm doing that. So look for a door hanger about the census. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President.
Frank, are you there?
Commissioner Burns?
Oh, Frank.
This is Commissioner Ritz. Quick
Ritz?
question for the mayor.
Yes.
Okay.
Question for you, Mayor.
Regarding the census flyers, are they just random placement through town, or are they hanging on people's doors as a reminder?
I'm going.
There's no right.
We've probably done already. I don't know, at least 300, and we'll go out tomorrow morning, and we do as much as we can. We tolerate the heat, but we're going around to every residence. We're not going to the rental projects yet, because I think Commissioner Davis and I have decided we're going to try to do something later this year. When it cools down a little bit, we're going to set up a tent in front of the rental projects and get them as they go in and out. But we're getting around to every residence we possibly can.
Okay, I was just making sure. It was just a friendly reminder for those who haven't submitted their information yet.
Right.
I received one, and I know we submitted ours and got confirmation. Goodness, it was probably near the end of March. So just making sure that it wasn't a glitch in the system, and there was a notification that my address didn't submit the information yet.
Very good.
Yeah, and everyone,
Thank you.
if I'm correct, we receive $18,000 for each individual that's on the census for 10 years.
It's worth $18,000 per person
year.
over 10 years to the county and all the services we have here, and it kind of the federal government puts out about $675 billion worth of funds every year, and if you're not counted, you don't get the money. And sadly, in 2010, we were at 50% or 52%. That's as highest, and right now we're at almost 68.5, but that's still not good enough. But let's do everything we can, especially these tight times with money. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move on? Alrighty, public comment. We have any? No public comment. Administrative business. Update on the 2020 election and the COVID-19 restrictions.
Okay. So Maddie's been working with Frederick County Board of Elections on our upcoming election and what they do as far as handling in-person elections with the COVID-19. So basically what we're recommending for the election is we're going to have 4, which the mayor will present. I think one of the agenda items is for the election judges. We'll have 4 people working instead of just 3 election judges and 1 greeter. Face masks are required for entry into the voting room. Voters are going to be requested to use hand sanitizer upon entering the voting room. 2 voting booths total, which is what we normally have. They're going to be spaced 6 feet apart. There's going to be tape markings on the floor to ensure social distance inside as well as outside on the sidewalks. Gloves and masks will be provided to the judges. The chief judge, which is 1 person, and the election judges are 2. They'll be responsible for wiping down the voting booth with sanitizer after each voter. They'll collect pens from the voters after voting and disinfect them for next voters. Periodically wipe down the ballot box with disinfectant. Periodically wipe down the sign-in table with disinfectant. The greeter will act as an outside greeter to ensure no more than 2 voters inside at any time. He or she will manage the line at the door waiting to vote to ensure social distancing. We'll have face masks available as needed for voters who do not have one prior to entering. We'll have voters, and the greeter will have voters use hand sanitizers before entering the voting room. As normal, the deputies will be working the entire day as well if there would be any problems, which I would not anticipate any. And then absentee ballots are they ready now?
No, we have to wait for all the candidates.
That's right. So once the candidates are filed, then the absentee ballots will be ready. And on the ballot, you'll note that due to ongoing COVID-19 concerns, anyone wishing to not vote in person may request an absentee ballot. So take that into consideration if there are concerns with in-person voting. That's all the updates for the election.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Just, 2 questions. First, could we hear the date again of the election?
September 20,
That's Frank, isn't it?
28th?
that's Commissioner O'Donnell. It is
Yes.
September 29th.
29th.
Okay, and the poll is just open that day. We're not doing any early voting or anything like that. The only other voting would be
Absentee.
absentee ballots, correct? Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, you're back on? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, he just joined.
Alrighty. We're moving on. Consent agenda, we have none. Treasurer report, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Cash activity as of July 28th, 2020. Cash balance July 1st, 2020, $5,137,064. Deposits were in the sum of $347,637. Withdrawals were in the amount of $262,221. And the operating balance forward is $5,222,480. Below are listed the top 10 checks between June 30th and July 28th.
Any questions about the Treasury report at this time?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move on. Planning Commission report. Commissioner Ritz?
Nothing to report at this time. There is a meeting scheduled in October, our quarterly meeting. I'll defer to Zach if we have a meeting scheduled prior to that I don't know about.
Yeah, depending on tonight, with the 2 proposed amendments, we will have one this month.
Okay, great.
Alrighty. Thank you. We're moving on to the regular agenda items. Okay. Number 1, approval of the 2020 election judges. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we had 5 applicants. One just has to stand down for personal reasons, but those who are elected, Tammy May, Emmitsburg election judge, 2019, and Frederick County primary election judge, 2018, at Sibyllsville Elementary. Tracy Lewis, alternate Emmitsburg election judge, 2019. Deborah Arnold, Frederick County primary election judge, 2018, at the Emmitsburg Elementary School. Charlotte Mazaleski, Emmitsburg election judge, 2019. Lynn Orndorff, Frederick County election judge, past 3 elections. My recommendations are that are for all 4 of them. Yeah, the chief judge, I'm recommending Lynn Orndorff because of her experience with Frederick County. Judge Charlotte Mazaleski, Judge Tammy May, Greeter Tracy Lewis, alternate judge, greeter on call, Deborah Arnold. We're increasing our staff there because of what may traffic jams and how many people can be in there at the same time. Every elections will still be down at 22 East Main Street. So again, it's Lynn Orndorff as the chief judge, Charlotte Mazaleski as a judge, Tammy May as a judge, greeter Tracy Lewis, alternate judge, greeter on call Deborah Arnold. Those are my recommendations.
I need a motion to accept the election judges as presented.
I make a motion to accept the election judges as presented.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Burns. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ritz. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 And I would like to personally thank all 5 ladies for stepping up and offering their services. That's a great turnout for election judges.
Eric, very much.
Thank you. Motion, all in favor said aye. I think we got that already. I didn't hear Frank. Is Frank on?
He's back on.
I'm back on. I'm good.
Okay. Everybody said aye. Motion carries 5-0. Number 2, approval of FY 2021 Frederick County Sheriff Office contract.
Yes, so we were finally able to get the contract from the sheriff's office last week. The contract has not changed over the last 10 years that we've had sheriff's office, more than that in town. So the contract is still the same boilerplate contract. The total contract for FY 2021 is $272,614. It is a decrease from fiscal year 2020 by $12,010 or 4.21%. The reason is the change in personnel. It'll be for, right now, we have Deputy Whitehouse and Deputy Ahalt.
Okay.
Make a motion, we accept the new contract for the Frederick County Sheriff's Office.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Second that.
Second by
Have your
Commissioner Ritz. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion carries. It's nice to save $12,000.
Yes.
We are skipping over number 3. We are not doing mandatory water. We're taking that off the agenda this evening.
Right, based off of conversations I've had with Dan and looking at the lake levels and the well levels, right now, we have no problem continuing with voluntary water restrictions. Hopefully, we'll get some rain out of this storm that moves through in the next 2 days. But right now, we're in good shape.
So we're staying on voluntary water
Yes.
Curtailment.
until our next meeting, and we'll have another update.
Right.
Alrighty, number 4.
It's
Proposed ordinance for 2020 -08 subdivision amendment. Zach?
Yes, so Maddie and I are going to kind of tag team this. Maddie is going to go through the slides, and I'll be reading everything. Maddie, can you please put up the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Sounds like a
And then
magician.
share the screen, please. Alrighty. So as always, please interrupt me if you have any questions or concerns or anything. So this is a proposed amendment to Title 16, titled Subdivisions. The last significant update was in 1999. The vast majority of the proposed changes in this amendment are just cleaning up outdated materials and errors. Next slide. Section 160420. We're just going to go in chronological order here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to state in here. So error correction. State Code Article 66B was repealed and replaced. It is now just called the Land Use Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. Next slide, please. Section 160450, Town Planning Commission. Error correction. The Maryland Land Use Article states Planning Commission and not Planning and Zoning Commission. Next slide. Definitions. 160460. Error corrections to the following terms: alley and county master transportation plan. I deleted technical advisory committee. The town planner position is designated to assist developers with information concerning regulations, and to my knowledge, it was never used within the town. I added the following terms, which I will discuss in great detail a little later. Buffer area means a strip of land which is planted and maintained in shrubs, bushes, trees, grass, or other landscape material, and within which no structure is permitted except a wall or fence. Buffer yard means an open area whose dimensions may exceed the normal building setback or yard requirement used to protect low-density uses and zoning districts from adjacent higher density uses and districts. Landscape plan means a component of a subdivision, site, and or improvement plat on which is shown proposed landscape species, such as number, spacing, size, time of planting, and planning details. Proposals for protection of existing vegetation during and after construction. Proposed treatment of hard and soft surfaces. Proposed decorative features. Grade changes, buffers, and screening devices, and any other information that can reasonably be required in order to make an informed decision can be made by the Planning Commission. And finally, a lot flag. So a flag lot means a lot not meeting minimum frontage requirements and where access to the public road is by a narrow private right-of-way or driveway. We will talk about these in a few moments. Next slide. Section 160810, subdivider must prepare and record plat of subdivision. This is just an error correction to Article 66B that was repealed and replaced. Next slide. 160860, these are violations and penalties. Same thing, we just corrected the Article 66B because it was repealed and replaced. Next slide. Section 161215. So this is a new section, sketch plat, or some people call it concept plans. This is a newly added section. It provides the option and procedures for developers to submit a sketch plat of a subdivision and or improvement plat to the town staff in order to review before submitting an official plan. It helps reduce the amount of errors and conditions and provides a cleaner plan for the Planning Commission to review. So basically, it comes in, I give it to the mayor, the town manager, the director of public works, the water sewer and superintendent. I review it, and we see if we see anything that sticks out. Next slide, please. Let's see. 16/12/20, submission of a preliminary plat of subdivision for approval. Just minor error corrections and updates. Maryland Land Use Code uses plat instead of plan, provides uniformity in the code. Updates submittal requirements, requires developers to submit 15 copies of the preliminary plat and 3 copies of all reports, notifications, and certifications. This alone saves the town a little bit of money because we were having to make copies of the plans. Slide 9, next. Improvement plat, section 16/12/30. Again, error correction plan to plat. Update submittal requirements, as the last thing we just said, requires developer to submit 15 copies and 3 copies of all reports, notifications, and certifications. Next slide, please. Approval of the final plat, 16/12/40. Error corrections and updates. We updated the submittal requirements again, 15 copies. We added the Planning Commission chair signature requirement. And we update recording requirements per the clerk of court, county health department, and then town office requirements. Next slide. 16/16/30, street design standards, error corrections and updates. I increased the sidewalk width requirement from 4 feet to 5 feet in order to meet ADA federal and state code. I also updated street intersection angles per Maryland MDOT and SHA requirements. Next slide. 16/16/60, easements. This is an update. Added that all easements over individual lots shall be depicted on the final plat. That was a request of the town attorney. Increased stormwater easement requirement from 20 feet to 25 feet on each side of the stream or water course. This is a planning tool that we've been using in order to plan for future town MS4 stream restoration projects. Next slide, please. Lot design standards, 16/16/70. Error corrections, the code referenced the wrong chapter. And also new regulations for flag lots. More information and picture will be on the next slide of that. Next slide, please. So the area in gray, if you look on the screen, is a flag lot. A flag lot consists of the pole, which is the long driveway, and the flag where the house goes. Developers use flag lots in order to squeeze in extra lots and skirt subdivision regulations. For example, flag lots do not meet the minimum frontage requirements. This section prohibits flag lots unless they are used to preserve some important natural or cultural feature, including productive farmland. It then sets guidelines if flag lots are used. Many subdivision regulations throughout the country prohibit flag lots. In residential areas, the rationale for this would be the desire for some degree of uniformity in the building setback line. Regular lots tend to create a nicer looking neighborhood in the minds of many people. More importantly, to a town government, flag lots can be confusing to police, fire, garbage collection, and other town services. Next slide, please. So here are 4 flag lots examples that are in Pembroke. Next slide. 16/16/100, required recreation areas to be dedicated. I made some spelling error corrections, and we also are recommending that we increase the park and recreation impact fee from $100 to $200 per dwelling unit for residential developments who provide a park or recreation area in their development, or $300 to $400 per dwelling unit for residential developments who do not provide a park or recreation for those or those developments where the mayor and board do not wish to take over a park in that particular development. So it's up to the board. Next slide, please. So here is where we have our significant change in the code. So section 1616.110 is landscaping, buffer yards, and screening. So the requirements of this new code section are only applicable to new residential subdivisions of 5 or more units and all non-residential developments with greater than 10 parking spaces. So again, this is not going to be for Joe Schmo who wants to build one house or two houses. It's 5 or more units and all non-residential developments with 10 or more parking spaces. New subdivisions of 5 or more units will be required to add street trees. Currently, there are no requirements for that. And all non-residential developments will be required to add street trees and a landscape buffer if adjoining a less intensive use or zoning district, such as a residential zoning district. And we're going to go into great detail here pretty soon. But I wanted to really note here that this should not increase the cost for a developer. In accordance with the state and town forest conservation laws, new developments that disturb over 40,000 square feet are required to submit a forest conservation plan along with the development plan. Developers are required to plant so many new trees depending on their disturbance level. Developers are required, or excuse me, most developers will purchase Frederick County mitigation bank credits instead of planting the trees for their convenience. So Frederick County will then plant the trees on their behalf somewhere else in the county. So we are now basically saying, if you approve this, we're saying that we want you to plant your trees in our town and not in another municipality across the county. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this section, tree and shrub screening required by this section are intended to provide an effective visual barrier at the street level between conflicting uses related to noise, heat, glare, dust, and traffic. Screening and screens are used to preserve property values and ensure compatibility of different land uses, as well as improve the appearance of individual properties and neighborhoods in town. This section provides standards and options for design and installation of plants, fences, and walls used as screening in the town. Screening shall be in accordance with the following table and with the buffer yard Exhibit A. The buffer yard types relate to the town zoning districts as described in Town Code Section 1708-220 General Buffer Regulations, which we'll discuss in the next proposed amendment. Next slide. So any non-residential use adjoining a less intensive use in any zone shall meet the following buffer yard type and width requirements. The buffer yard shall extend the entire length or width of the property line of the adjoining zone or lot. And I'm going to provide picture examples in a few minutes here. So buffer yard 1, this is your less intensive use. So 1 shade tree per 50 linear feet and 1 evergreen tree per 40 linear feet of buffer yard screen. Buffer yard 2, we get a little more intensive use. The middle intensive use, 1 shade tree per 40 linear feet and 1 evergreen tree per 30 linear feet of buffer yard screen, and 1 deciduous or evergreen shrub per 20 linear feet or buffer yard screen. At least 60% of the shrub planting shall be the evergreen type. And here is where we get to the most intensive. Buffer yard 3 is 1 shade tree per 30 linear feet and 1 evergreen tree per 10 linear feet of buffer yard screen, and 1 deciduous or evergreen shrub per 10 linear feet or of buffer yard screen. At least 70% of the shrub planting shall be the evergreen type. So now we're going to get into specific examples so this makes more sense. And as you can see, buffer yard 1 is your village zone, your neighborhood commercial. Buffer yard 2, general commercial, institutional. And buffer yard 3, which is your most intensive use, is your industrial park and your office, research, and industrial. Next slide. So as you look on the screen here, here's an example of the buffer yard 1 requirement. So let's pretend that the convenience store near Brookfield was being built this year with the new regulations in place. This shows a neighborhood commercial B1 parcel bordering an empty B1 parcel on the left and a village zone parcel on the right. Since this parcel is in the B1 zoning district, buffer yard 1 landscaping is required on the right side of this parcel, which borders the residential district. The buffer yard width requirement for B1 buffer is buffer yard 1 is 25 feet. So buffer yard 1 requires 1 shade tree per 50 linear feet and 1 evergreen tree per 40 linear feet of buffer yard. So this so the right property line is approximately 180 feet. So they would be required to plant the following: 4 shade trees and 5 evergreen trees. Street trees would also be required along West Main Street. A minimum of 2 canopy street trees shall be provided for 1 every 100 feet. The property line is approximately 100 feet, so they would be required to install 2 street trees. Any dumpsters that they would have and stormwater ponds would also require additional landscaping. Next slide, please. So here's an example of buffer yard 2 requirement. This is an empty parcel in Silo Hill Parkway. This shows a general commercial B2 parcel bordering residential parcels. The buffer yard width for buffer yard 2 is 25 feet. It increases slightly. Since this parcel is in the B2 zoning district, buffer yard 2 landscaping is required on the rear of the parcel, which borders the residential district. Buffer yard 2 requires 1 shade tree per 40 linear feet, 1 evergreen tree per 30 linear feet, and 1 deciduous or evergreen shrub per 20 linear feet. The rear property line is approximately 540 feet. So they would have to install the following on the rear lot line only: 14 shade trees, 8 evergreen trees, and 27 deciduous or evergreen shrubs. Like I said before, this section also requires street trees, a minimum of 2 canopy trees per every 100 feet. The front property line is approximately 550 feet, so they would have to install 11 street trees along Silo Hill Parkway. Right now, they wouldn't have to do any of that. Basically, they would only be required to install a 6-foot fence on the rear of the property line, just like Duncan was required to do. Let's see. So next slide, please. Buffer yard 3 example. Let's pretend that the Vigilant Hose Company decides to sell their building on Creamery Way to a manufacturer. This shows an industrial park parcel bordering an institutional parcel. So since this parcel is in the industrial park zoning district, buffer yard 3 landscaping is required on the western side of the parcel, which borders the institutional district, which is Daughters of Charity. The buffer yard 3 width is 30 feet. This requires 1 shade tree per 30 linear feet, 1 evergreen tree per 10 linear feet, and 1 shrub per 10 linear feet as well. So the western boundary is approximately 1,000 feet. So they would have to plant the following on the western lot line only: 34 shade trees, 100 evergreen trees, and 100 evergreen shrubs. And the purpose of the buffer yard is to reduce noise, light, and other types of pollution that is possible from that use. Also, they would be required to plant the trees along street trees. Their front property line is approximately 540 feet, so they would have to install 11 street trees. Again, any dumpsters or stormwater ponds would require additional landscaping. Next slide. So here's an example of the landscaping regulations if Emmett Ridge is completed, and this is passed. No buffer yard is required on the boundary because it surrounds similar uses, residential uses. Street trees would be required. So the finishing building Irishtown Drive is approximately 1,500 feet, give or take. So they would have to install 30 street trees along Irishtown Drive. Right now, they're not required to install any street trees, and I can pretty much promise you that the developer is not going to do this on their own. So this gives them a little nudge. The stormwater pond would also require additional landscaping. Next slide. Here's an example showing a Creamery Way parcel in the industrial park zone, which borders other industrial park parcels. So they're all similar uses. Since they do not border less intensive zoning districts, they would only be required to provide street trees. The front property line is approximately 270 feet, so they would be required to install 6 street trees. This section also requires screening. Oh, I'm sorry, next slide. Also requires screening on all loading and service areas when adjacent to a residential district. Dumpsters, transformers, fuel storage tanks, and unsightly utilities. And stormwater management ponds that are adjacent to similar adjoining properties and public and private roads. Next slide. This section also includes minimum planting heights and calibers, credits if existing trees can be maintained and are acceptable size and health. So for an example, Silo Hill Parkway, they have very large trees on their southern border. So we would be able to give them credit for those trees. Recommended trees and shrub species and invasive species that can't be used. Next slide. Are there any questions on the landscaping requirements?
Yes,
Please.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
thank you. I'm backing up to page 25 regarding stream protection, and I'm seeking clarification on reducing that buffer by 10 feet. That is 5 on each side. What was our rationale for that reduction? It didn't seem clear to me at the time.
Are you looking at 1660C?
Yes.
We're actually increasing it. Right now it's 20 feet.
I'm sorry. Okay. Good. That makes a heck of a lot more sense.
Okay.
Okay. Jumping to page 27. And I'm referencing 100 required recreation areas to be dedicated. For clarification, the developer is therefore obligated to create a recreational space within the neighborhood. Do I understand that correctly?
No. So first off, they would have an option to do it. If they decided not to by themselves, they would have to pay the $400 per lot. If they said, no, we do want to do a park there, I would bring it to the board and the mayor. And if you guys decided you do not want another park, then they would have to pay that $400 again. That makes sense?
It does, but my concern is living in a neighborhood that has no parks. I feel we are at a real loss because of the walkability piece, the social development for the kids interacting, and for the social cohesiveness of the neighborhood. I think there's a lot of value in prompting recreational land in a neighborhood, and I think we really suffer for lack of it. And I know developers aren't keen on it, as they could monetize that property, but the reality is it enhances the quality of life for those who reside in the area. And should somebody know there's going to be a park next to their house, they might choose to not buy that lot and move to a different lot where somebody else might want to have that lot with the recreational land next to their land, next to their own land. I have concerns about that. I value the idea that we're trying to monetize it for our purposes. I think that has value for sure, but I would rather see us add some prompt to encourage recreational use in neighborhoods. That small pocket park with a swing set and a jungle gym. I think that really does add value to the community.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Are any other commissioners aligned with that, or am I a voice in the playgroundless wilderness?
I'm trying to understand, and then the homeowners association would be controlling the parks and paying for the insurance and stuff that was on it, or is that going to be, have to be plotted over to the town?
So the board and the mayor, you have discretion in order to take it over or not. So my only concern with that, I love the idea. My only concern is I know some HOAs complain that they have such high liability costs when they have parks. But that's just something they would have to eat in with their HOA fees, if that's what you want to do.
The other side of it, though, it does enhance their property values.
Sure.
So when it's time for them to cash out, they reap the reward of that investment. And maybe the town should consider it in time. That's we certainly have a different liability model for our collective protection. But it's hard for me also to force a neighborhood to yield property. But I would think that to identify its use, well, that's something we already do. So I think there's value to having a park.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes, sir.
I made note of your concern. Assuming that this passes this evening, it would be going to the Planning Commission. So I made note of your concerns to discuss it at the Planning Commission meeting.
That is greatly appreciated, sir. And I would be happy to flesh it out if I were invited to do so.
I think anyone's invited via Zoom.
Terrific. Okay. Last item for clarification relates to, I believe it was Buffer Yard 2. And I'm trying to see if we're trying to create a green buffer between properties. Great idea, completely for it. By defining it as X number of items per linear feet, is that enough to dictate to the property developer to actually plant along a line as opposed to clustering all of it in one corner of their property? Like if I have to put 100 items in, does the language prompt me to do it along my border as opposed to just foisting it into one section of the property I'm developing?
Yes, it does. If you look at Exhibit A, it shows how it must be outlined. So
Okay. Can you give me a page number for A?
29.
Thank you. I'm going there now.
So it basically, this directs the developer how it needs to be planned. It's my job and also the Planning Commission's job to make sure they do it this way.
Okay, so there's literally no, well, for lack of a better phrase, sneak around on that one.
Correct.
Terrific. Okay, that's all I'm looking for. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, great. And I also put down your comment on the parks, and we'll be talking about that at the Planning Commission. I'll also put it in my staff memo to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns?
Hey, Zach.
Yeah.
I just wanted to follow up with what Commissioner O'Donnell said. I don't disagree with him as far as the parks. Where we are in Southgate, we have several empty lots right now. And I know at one point in time before I moved into the neighborhood, the neighbors had all spoken and they were actually trying to buy one of the plots to put a pavilion and or playground or something like that for all the kids in the neighborhood. And I know it met opposition from the homeowners association because of liability and things of that nature. So it's definitely a double-edged sword, and I can understand where Commissioner O'Donnell's coming from, but it's a tough situation to maybe get across, because while it does raise property values, it might upset some other people with, increase in homeowners association fees or anything of that nature.
The retro idea, that makes it difficult, I agree, but if perhaps it's there at the outset, then that's just, that's part of the landscape, no pun intended.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, moving on. Section 162010 general. These are just updates. The improvement plat shall be submitted with an application and an electronic copy of the plan and all reports. The current code states a scale of 1 inch to 100. This is very, very outdated. The scale should be between 10 and 50 feet to 1 inch. And this creates a standard plan size submittal of 24 inches by 36 inches, which is standard. And a few error corrections. Next section. Next slide. Minimum requirements, 162020. Updates require specific connections to all new fire hydrants. I had a discussion with the fire chief, and this is what they use on their trucks, so we're going to require that. Error corrections, correct the name of Frederick County Water and Sewer Manual, and removed outdated section of Maryland Code. Next slide. 162030 improvement plats. For street lights, updates, change light requirements from high pressure sodium to LED. Change commercial and industrial references to non-residential. Added National Electrical Code regulations shall be adhered to. Add lighting requirements to parking areas, main entrances, and exits, which are open to the public. These are for non-residential. Add the Planning Commission may require additional lighting along streets and key intersections where deemed necessary. And added protections for adjacent property owners, such as light shields must be face down and not out. That was a concern of over at Emmett Gardens with the past development. Next slide. 162050 improvement plan review fees. This section was deleted and moved to section 163650 with the other plan fees. Next slide. Sketch plat. Chapter 1622 and section 162210 sketch plat specifications. This is a new chapter and section. Basically, this adds sketch plat general submittal requirements and specifications. For example, sheet size shall be 24 inches by 36 inches, and plat must include number of acres in tract, average lot size, appropriate number of lots, etc. Basically, this sets one standard for everybody, so we don't receive different size plats that have different information on it. Everybody has the same standards. Next slide. This is more of the same thing. Everybody having the same standards. This is for preliminary plats. Sections A through E. A requires electronic copy of plats and reports. B adds preliminary plat requirements and specifications, which I just stated, scale size, sheet size, etc. C, if applicable, the plat shall be accompanied by the adequate public facilities plan, the forest stand delineation conservation plans, density and yield plan, and that's only for new developments, residential developments, and HOA documentation and set standards. For D, we removed that and added that to B, and E, we removed and added it to B. So it just cleans up and makes everything real nice and tidy. Everybody has the same standards. Next slide. 162430, information as to existing physical conditions. This was deleted and information was added to the previous preliminary plat specification section, all in one section. Next slide. 162440, information as proposed development, same thing, deleted and removed and moved to the preliminary plat specification section. Next slide. So everything I just stated for final plats, basically. Similar to what we did for sketch plans or sketch plats and preliminary plats. One thing you may have noticed is we will be requiring smaller plat sheet sizes for final plats. These are 18 inches by 24 inches. This is because final plats are recorded with Frederick County, and this is the size that is required in order to be recorded with the clerk of courts. Next slide. 162830 graphic information. Again, section deleted and information was added to the previous section. Next slide. 162840 certificates and other information. Again, deleted, added to the previous final plat specification section. So it's all in one section for them. Next slide. 163210 error corrections. We clarified commission as planning commission, and town county master transportation plan, not the highway plan. Next slide. Section 163610 annexation fees. This is standard language we've been adding to all of our code revisions. Fees shall be established from time to time by policy, resolution, or ordinance. Next slide. The same exact thing for sketch plats for the fees. Next slide. Same exact thing, but for preliminary subdivision plats. Next slide. Again, the same exact thing for the fees for final plats. Next slide. Same thing with improvement plats. Okay, so that is everything for the subdivision ordinance. As you can see, the vast majority of it was just cleaning up errors. Are there any more questions on that section?
I just have a procedural question.
Sure.
Assuming, okay, so this will go to vote tonight to pass this on to the planning commission, wherein I am a voting member. So if I would be voting on that later this month, this comes back to the board, then I do not vote on it during the planning meeting.
Correct. So from what my understanding is, you'll be basically, you'll be at the meeting. You can talk about the plans and the everything, but you would only be a voting member if you decide a tie at the planning commission meeting.
So then when it comes back to the board, and there's another assumption, if I'm on the board of commissioners, then I would vote at that time.
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? This is a lot shorter section, so just bear with me here a little bit longer. So
Hey,
this
Zach.
is,
Do you want to take a vote on sending this one to the planning commission, or do you want to do them both at the same time?
yes, please. Good idea.
I need a motion to send the ordinance 20-08 subdivisions to the planning and zoning.
And also to set the public hearing for October 5th, 2020.
I need the motion to set the public hearing also with that. Do I hear a motion?
I'll
I make a motion to, go ahead, sorry.
I'll make a motion to forward proposed ordinance 20-08 to the planning commission and to set a public hearing date of October 5th, 2020 for said ordinance.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Ritz. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes, sir.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Number 5. Agenda item number 5. Go ahead, Zach.
Okay, so this is proposed, or Maddie, there you go. Thank you. Proposed amendment for Title 17 zoning. The vast majority of these changes, again, are cleaning up things and correcting errors. 1 second, sorry about that. Next slide, please. Just as in the subdivision section, I added new definitions of buffer area, buffer yard, and landscape plan. I also made a small error correction to the definition of plan. I'm not going to review those again unless you want me to. Next slide. Okay, so establishment of districts, 170810. So there are error corrections to the zoning district names in order to make them consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. I looked back from 2009 and 2015 just to make sure they're all consistent. And for some reason, the zoning ordinance has different names. So I'm recommending to change them to make them consistent with the comp plans. So neighborhood commercial or neighborhood business is going to be changed to neighborhood commercial. Shopping center is going to be changed to general commercial or B2. Light industrial park we changed to industrial park. And I also put the acronyms after the spelled out words. So just to make it consistent. Next slide. Off-street parking. I added off-street parking lighting requirements in order to protect neighboring properties from light pollution. So for lighting, parking areas, main entrances and exits, which are open to the public, shall be lighted to a minimum average of 2 foot candles and a maximum of 6 foot candles. This is standard language. All lighting shall be arranged as to reflect the light downward and away from adjoining properties. And public right-of-ways. Lighting plans, including photometrics, and all details shall be included with all plans. So the Planning Commission will have the ability to review and make sure that the lights that they're proposing on the development are appropriate with neighboring properties. The Planning Commission has the authority to require light along proposed streets and at key intersection locations where deemed necessary. All lighting shall be directed downward and inward to the site. Proposed canopy lights shall be fully recessed, and light fixtures within parking compounds shall be equipped with cutoff shields. Maximum height of street lights shall be 15 feet in residential zones and 20 feet in non-residential zones. Next slide. 1708-160. This was previously called obstructions to vision at intersections prohibited. But however, I changed it to clear sight triangle. Sight distance, that's the planning term for it. So here's an example of a clear sight triangle. Please see the picture on the screen. In a clear sight triangle, no walk, fence, sign, or other structure shall be erected or altered, and no hedge, tree, shrub, or other growth shall be maintained or permitted between 3 and 8 feet above grade, which may cause danger to traffic or a street or public road by obscuring the view. A clear sight triangle shall be maintained at all intersections of streets, with streets, drives, driveways with streets, and private roads with streets, within which no structure of growing material shall exceed a height of 3 feet above the grade of the street, drive, or road, and no branch of a tree or sign of any type shall be lower than 9 feet. Basically, this ensures when someone's pulling out of the road, they have adequate distance to make a informed decision to turn or not. So this triangle will be required on all new development plans. It's very, very standard with development submittals.
I have a question.
Sure.
What about parking? Is that 75 feet away too?
Correct. It cannot be within the clear sight triangle, but this is not on current development. So if there's parking at a intersection now, we're not going to make them change and tear it up. Okay. Next slide. So here are the general buffer regulations. Unless there are questions, I'm not going to go over this section in great detail. It greatly mimics the buffer requirements in Title 16 subdivisions, which we already discussed in detail. Placing this section in the zoning ordinance gives it more teeth. I did want to go over the 3 buffer yard types again. The buffer yard increases in width as intensity of uses permitted in the zoning district increases. The village zone has a minimum buffer of 15, neighborhood commercial 25, general commercial and institutional 25, and industrial park and office research industrial 30. Next slide. 1708-230, general lighting regulations. This section was added to protect against light pollution from future developments. Where light fixtures are installed to provide exterior illumination, excluding overhead street lighting and warning emergency or traffic signals, the following restrictions shall apply. These standards will apply to all uses except single-family dwellings. For example, the lighting from any luminary shall be shaded, shielded, directed. Lighting shall be designed so that glare or direct illumination does not exceed 1 foot candle beyond the property line. And non-conforming light, any lighting fixture existing on the effective date of this section, which does not conform to the requirement of this section, shall be considered a lawful non-conforming light fixture. A non-conforming light fixture shall be made to comply with the requirements of the section when such fixture is replaced, relocated, or repaired. Next section.
I got a question on that, if I could.
Yes.
How is that going to affect what I call Old Town Emmitsburg, downtown, anything like that? How's that, I know when you do new stuff, it's real easy to fix, but we have Old Town Emmitsburg that we can't forget about.
Yeah, so that's why I added the non-conforming light section. So unless something significant happens to the light pole, they're not required to conform to this. So we're not going to go out there if this is passed and you make everybody comply. You're not going to see that happen because we can't do that according to the law here.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Next section, please. 1708-240, unenclosed storage. I greatly recommend this. This is a new section to protect against unsightly storage of materials and non-residential garbage. Luckily, Duncan and Rudders were willing to do this. We couldn't require them to do this, so we could have seen really ugly big dumpsters and smelly dumpsters, but luckily they were willing to do this. Insurance brokers of Maryland, they're not going to have large dumpsters like this, so we didn't have to ask them for that. Let's see. So this new section is to protect against unsightly storage of materials and non-residential garbage. For example, see the attached picture of a commercial dumpster, which is properly screened. This section will require that all new permanent trash dumpsters shall be located within the side or rear yard, screened from adjoining roads and properties, and completely enclosed within a site-type masonry or fenced enclosed equipped with self-latching door or gate. Dumpsters shall be screened with plantings in accordance with the code we just spoke about. Again, to speak on Commissioner Davis's concerns, this is for new development only. All businesses that currently have dumpsters do not have to comply with this regulation unless they want to. Next slide.
Mr. Golden, quick question.
Yes.
If a high density development were to come to town, residential development, have you, would they have similar requirements for a dumpster for their community?
One second. Let me check here.
Sure. Thank you. Don't mean to put you on the spot. Just trying to follow up.
It's okay. So 1708-240. Do you happen to know what page number that is? 1708-240?
It's going to take me a moment. Yes, page 55 of 66.
Okay. Yes, sir. So if we have a high density, any kind of residential development comes in and they do have dumpsters, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.